The message came at midnight. Ambassador Do-Wan Lee was sleeping in his small room on the space station when his communicator started screaming. He woke up fast, his heart beating hard. In 60 years of working with the Galactic Council, he had never received an emergency call at this hour. He read the message 3 times. His hands began to shake. Earth's membership in the Galactic Council was finished. All human colonies beyond the solar system had 30 days to leave. Any humans who stayed would be removed by force. The message was signed by all 5 elder species. Do-Wan sat on the edge of his bed for a long time. He had given his whole life to building peace between humans and the Council. He had believed that if humans worked hard and followed the rules, they would be accepted. He had been a fool. He sent a warning to Earth. Then he packed his bag and walked to the shuttle bay. Council guards were already waiting for him. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their weapons said everything, far away. At the edge of human space, Admiral Yuna Park stood on the bridge of her flagship. She was a small woman with gray hair and cold eyes. She had commanded the 7th Fleet for 15 years. In that time, she had fought pirates, stopped rebellions, and protected Council shipping lanes. She had done everything they asked. Now she watched her screens fill with red warning lights. Council warships were moving toward the colony on New Busan. There were 60 ships. The colony had no military defense. It was a farming world. 3 million people lived there, growing food for other human settlements. Yuna sent a message to the Council fleet. She asked them to stop. She asked them to wait for the 30 days they had promised. She asked them to show mercy. The Council ships did not answer. They opened fire. Yuna watched the colony burn. She watched buildings fall. She watched evacuation ships explode before they could leave the atmosphere. She watched 3 million people die in less than 2 hours. Her crew was silent. Some of them were crying. Others were frozen. Unable to believe what they were seeing, Yuna did not cry. Something inside her had turned to ice. She would save her tears for later. Right now, she needed to think. She turned to her communications officer. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what happened. Tell them the Council has broken their own agreement. Tell them. She paused. Tell them this is war. On the colony world of Incheon Station, Captain Minho Baek was trying to save as many people as he could. He was a transport pilot, not a soldier. His ship was designed to carry cargo, not refugees. But when the Council ships arrived, he did not think about that. He only thought about the children running through the streets, screaming for their parents. He landed his ship in the middle of the city square. People rushed toward him, pushing and fighting to get inside. Minho shouted for order, but no one listened. They were too afraid. Council soldiers were already on the ground. They wore black armor and carried weapons that Minho had never seen before. They were not arresting people. They were killing them. Minho saw an old woman fall. He saw a young father try to protect his daughter and get shot in the back. He saw things that would stay in his nightmares forever. He filled his ship with as many people as it could hold. Then he filled it with more. The engines screamed in protest. The hull groaned under the weight, but Minho pushed the ship into the sky anyway. Council fighters chased him. They fired at his engines. They hit his cargo bay. But Minho had been flying ships since he was 16 years old. He knew every trick, every shortcut, every way to squeeze speed from a broken machine. He made it to the jump point with 700 refugees and a ship that was falling apart. Behind him, Incheon Station burned. On Earth, the news spread like fire. People gathered in the streets, watching the footage on giant screens. They saw the colonies dying. They saw the Council ships attacking without warning. They saw their friends and families turn to ash. At first, there was shock. Then there was grief. Then there was something else. Something that the Council had not expected. Anger. For 60 years, humans had tried to be good members of the galactic community. They had followed the rules. They had accepted their place as a junior species. They had been patient and humble and hopeful. Now they understood the truth. The Council had never seen them as partners. They had seen them as a problem, a threat, something to be controlled and, when necessary, destroyed. The president of Earth spoke to the world that night. Her name was Minji Kang, and she was 70 years old. She had spent her career working for peace. She had believed in diplomacy and cooperation and the good faith of other species. Now she stood before the cameras with tears on her face and steel in her voice. "They have killed our children," she said. "They have burned our homes. They have broken every promise they made to us. We asked for nothing but a chance to live in peace. They answered with murder." She paused. The whole world was watching. "We did not start this war. We did not want this war. But we will finish it. Every human who died today will be remembered. Every crime the Council has committed will be answered. We will not surrender. We will not forget, and we will not forgive." The speech lasted only 5 minutes. But when it ended, something had changed. Humans were no longer trying to be accepted by the galaxy. They were no longer hoping for friendship or understanding. They were preparing to fight. In her office, Admiral Yuna Park watched the president's speech. Then she turned to her staff and began giving orders. The 7th Fleet would retreat to Mars. They would join with the other human forces. They would build a defense line around the solar system, and they would make the Council pay for every life they had taken. The first day of the war was over. 3 million humans were dead. 100 years of hope were destroyed. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Council thought they had solved their human problem. They thought fear would break the strange little species from the small blue planet. They thought wrong. They had not destroyed humanity. They had awakened it. 6 months had passed since the first attack. The outer colonies were gone. The Council's armada moved closer to Earth every day, swallowing human space like a great dark wave. On paper, humanity was losing, but the Council was learning that paper meant nothing against humans. General Sun Woo Choi stood in the war room beneath Seoul. He was a tall man with a scarred face and tired eyes. He had not slept more than 3 hours a night since the war began. His doctors told him he was killing himself. He told them he would rest when his people were safe. On the screens around him, he watched the Battle of Titan. Council ships surrounded the human defense station. They outnumbered the defenders 10 to 1. By every military calculation, the battle should have been over in hours. It lasted 3 weeks. The human soldiers fought from room to room, corridor to corridor. When they ran out of bullets, they used knives. When they ran out of knives, they used their hands. They turned every meter of the station into a death trap for Council troops. In the end, the Council won. But they lost 8 ships and 4,000 soldiers to capture a station that held only 200 humans. General Sun Woo watched the final footage from Titan. The last defender was a young woman named Ji Yeon Kwon. She was 24 years old, a lieutenant who had joined the military only 2 years before. She had been wounded 3 times during the battle. She could barely stand, but she stood anyway. And when the Council soldiers broke through the final door, she was waiting for them with a dead man's rifle and a smile on her bloody face. The footage showed her killing 12 soldiers before they brought her down. Her last words, recorded by the station's cameras, spread across every human world that still had communications. "You will have to kill all of us," she said. "Every single one. And even then, we will haunt you forever." The Council expected her death to break human morale. Instead, her face appeared on posters across Earth and Mars. Children learned her name in school. Soldiers painted her words on their armor. Lieutenant Ji Yeon Kwon became a symbol of everything the Council did not understand about humans. General Sun Woo turned away from the screens. He had given the order for Protocol Ashes, and he would see it through. If the Council wanted human space, they would get nothing but ruins. Every station that could not be defended was destroyed. Every fuel depot was burned. Every factory was dismantled and its parts scattered across space. The Council advanced through empty worlds and dead stations. Every victory cost them ships and soldiers and supplies, and they gained nothing. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, Dr. Hana Shin worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. She was 53 years old, one of the greatest scientists humanity had ever produced. Before the war, she had studied alien biology. Now she studied alien machines. Her team had captured a Council shuttle during a raid 3 months ago. Since then, they had taken it apart piece by piece, learning everything they could about how the enemy worked. What Hana discovered changed everything. The Council's technology was beautiful. It was elegant. It was advanced beyond anything humans had ever built. But it had one fatal weakness. Every Council ship, every station, every weapon system was connected to a central network. This network allowed them to coordinate across thousands of light years. It made their fleets move like a single, perfect machine. But if someone could break that network, the machine would fall apart. Hana brought her findings to General Sunwoo on a cold night in December. She showed him the diagrams. She explained the science. She told him what she could build. A virus. She said, "We can create a virus that will spread through their network. It will corrupt their communications. It will disable their targeting systems. It will turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness." Sunwoo studied the plans. How long? 6 months to build. And we need to deliver it directly to their central hub, the main station where their network begins. That station is in the heart of Council space. Thousands of ships protect it. Hana nodded. I know. Getting there will be impossible. But if someone does get there, we can win this war. Sunwoo was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. The first real smile he had shown in months. "Doctor," he said, "in my experience, humans are very good at doing impossible things." On Mars, the final battle for the Red Planet was beginning. The Council fleet arrived with 500 ships. They expected to crush the human defenders in days. They expected surrender. Admiral Una Park gave them something else. She had spent 6 months preparing for this battle. Every canyon on Mars hid weapons. Every crater contained troops. The thin atmosphere was filled with mines that the Council's sensors could not detect. When the Council ships descended toward the surface, the mines activated. 30 ships died in the first minute. The rest scattered, their perfect formation broken. Una struck from the shadows. Her fleet was small, only 80 ships. But she had placed them carefully, hidden in the darkness between planets. While the Council dealt with the mines, she hit them from behind. The battle lasted 2 months. Mars fell, eventually. It had to fall. The numbers were too uneven. But the Council lost 200 ships. They lost their best admiral when Una's fighters destroyed his flagship. They lost something even more important. Their confidence. Before the war, Council commanders had laughed about the human problem. They had expected an easy victory against a young, primitive species. Now they were not laughing. Now they were afraid, because every world they took cost them more than the last. Because humans did not surrender when they were beaten. Because humans did not stop fighting when they were dying. Because humans looked at impossible odds and smiled. Admiral Una Park retreated to Earth with what remained of her fleet. She had lost many good people. She had lost Mars. She had lost almost everything. But she had given General Sunwoo and Dr. Hana Shin the time they needed. On Earth, factories worked day and night. Ships were being built in secret locations across the asteroid belt. Scientists studied captured Council technology and found more weaknesses. Millions of civilians trained for combat. The Council thought they were winning. They looked at the map and saw humanity pushed back to a single planet. They saw a species on the edge of extinction. They did not see the fire burning in human hearts. They did not see the plans being made in dark rooms. They did not see the storm that was coming. General Sunwoo stood at his window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council fleet was preparing its final attack on Earth. Somewhere out there, his enemies were celebrating their coming victory. "Enjoy it while you can," he whispered to the darkness. "You have no idea what you have started." 1 year into the war, the Council believed victory was close. Earth was surrounded. Human ships were destroyed faster than they could be built. The blockade allowed nothing in or out. In 3 months, maybe less, the humans would starve. That was what the Council believed. They were wrong about almost everything. In a hidden base carved into an asteroid, Commander Taewoo Jung walked through rows of sleeping warships. There were 300 of them, painted black and gray to match the darkness of space. No Council sensor had ever detected them. No enemy eye had ever seen them. This was the Ghost Fleet. For 40 years, Earth had been building ships in secret. Small bases, hidden in the asteroid belt, had constructed vessels piece by piece. The workers lived their entire lives in those bases. They never sent messages home. They never told anyone what they were doing. Many of them died without seeing the sun. They did it because they believed that someday, humanity would need a miracle. Commander Taewoo was 60 years old. He had commanded the Ghost Fleet for 20 years, waiting for a war he hoped would never come. Now the war was here, and his ships were ready. He walked past a massive battleship named Vengeance, past a carrier called Remember New Busan, past a cruiser with For Jian painted on its hull. Every ship had a name that meant something. Every crew had a reason to fight. Taewoo reached the command center and found his officers waiting. They were all volunteers. They all knew that when the Ghost Fleet finally moved, many of them would die. None of them had asked for a transfer. The Council is preparing their final assault, Taewoo said. Earth Command believes they will attack within 2 months. When they do, we will be waiting, far from the Ghost Fleet. In a luxury apartment on the Council's capital world, a human woman poured wine for her alien host. Her name was Nara Yu, and she was the most dangerous spy humanity had ever produced. For 3 years, she had lived among the Council's elite. She had learned their languages, their customs, their secrets. She attended their parties and listened to their conversations. She smiled and nodded and pretended to be harmless. They never suspected her. Why would they? She was just a human servant, brought to the capital before the war as a curiosity. They talked freely around her because they did not think she mattered. They were very, very wrong. Nara had sent hundreds of messages to Earth. She had revealed Council fleet movements, political divisions, and military weaknesses. Her information had saved thousands of lives. Tonight, she had learned something that could save billions. Her host was a minor official in the Council's military department. He drank too much and talked too freely. Tonight, he had mentioned something called Project Silence. It will end everything, he had said, his words slurred. One weapon, one shot. Earth will be empty forever. No more humans, no more problem. Nara had smiled and poured more wine. Inside, her blood had turned cold. She waited until her host fell asleep. Then she crept to his office and copied every file she could find. The information was encrypted, but she took it anyway. Earth scientists would break the code. That night, she sent her most important message ever. It contained one sentence. They are building something terrible. You have 3 months. On the Council's home world, one leader was having doubts. Elder Vorin was old even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had served on the Council for 200 years. He had voted for many wars. This was the first one that made him feel ashamed. He walked through the memorial garden, past statues of ancient heroes. His people had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had brought order and peace to 100 species. They had done great things, but they had also done terrible things. And this war was the worst of them. Vorin had seen the footage from New Busan. He had watched the Council's own soldiers murder children. He had read reports of human prisoners being tortured for information they did not have. He had listened to his fellow leaders laugh about the extermination of a troublesome species. He could not laugh. He could not sleep. He could barely live with himself. One night, he made a decision that would be called treason by his own people and salvation by another species. He sent a secret message to Earth. I am Elder Vorin of the Council. I do not expect you to trust me. I do not deserve your trust. But I must warn you of what is coming. The Council has built a weapon called Project Silence. It is a bomb that will poison Earth's atmosphere. Nothing will survive. Not humans, not animals, not plants. Your world will become a dead rock. The weapon will be deployed in 3 months. I do not know how to stop it. I only know that you must try. I am sorry for what my people have done, for what they are about to do. On Earth, General Sun Wu received Vorin's message at the same time as Nara's warning. He sat in his office for a long time, reading the words over and over. 3 months. That was all the time humanity had left. He called a meeting of Earth's War Council. Admiral Yuna Park was there. Dr. Hana Shin was there. Commander Tae Woo Jung, attended via secure communication from the Ghost Fleet. The most important military leaders of humanity gathered to hear the worst news of their lives. "We cannot defend against this weapon," Sun Wu said. "If they deploy it, everyone on Earth dies. Our only chance is to attack first. We must hit them so hard that they cannot launch the bomb." Yuna studied the maps. "Their defenses are too strong. We would need to break through 1,000 ships just to reach their inner systems. We have the Ghost Fleet," Taewu said. 300 ships they do not know about. It will not be enough to win, but it might be enough to create an opening. "Doctor," Hanashin spoke up. "My virus is ready. If we can deliver it to their central hub, their entire network will collapse. Their ships will lose coordination. Their weapons will malfunction. For a few hours, maybe a few days, they will be blind. Getting to the hub is a suicide mission," Yuna said quietly. "Whoever goes will not come back." The room was silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Someone would have to die to give humanity a chance to live. General Sun Wu looked at the faces around him. "We have 3 months to plan the largest attack in human history. We will throw everything we have at the Council. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. If we fail, humanity dies. If we succeed," he paused, "if we succeed, the galaxy will learn what happens when you try to kill us." The planning began that night. Across Earth, across the hidden bases in the asteroids, across every place where humans still drew breath, preparations were made. Ships were armed, soldiers were trained, weapons were built. The Council thought they had humanity trapped. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. The human fleet gathered in the darkness beyond Neptune. Admiral Yuna Park looked at the ships around her and felt something she had not felt in a year. Hope. There were 500 warships. Some were sleek military vessels built in the secret asteroid bases. Others were cargo ships fitted with weapons, their crews knowing they would never carry goods again. There were passenger ships, mining vessels, even old museum pieces that had been dragged out of retirement and made ready for one last flight. And there was the Ghost Fleet, finally revealed after 40 years of hiding. 300 warships emerged from the shadows like angry spirits. The Council did not know they existed. In a few hours, they would learn. Yuna addressed her fleet. Her voice reached every ship, every soldier, every human who waited in the darkness. They came to our colonies and killed our families. They burned our homes and laughed at our pain. They told us we were weak. They told us we would break. They told us we were nothing. She paused. Today, we show them what nothing can do. Far from the fleet, a small ship slipped through Council space. It was painted black and flew without any identifying signals. Inside were 12 people and enough explosives to destroy a small moon. Captain Sojin Ryu sat in the pilot's chair, watching the stars. He was 32 years old. He had been a test pilot before the war, flying experimental ships that no one else was brave enough to try. When General Sun Wu asked for volunteers for the hub mission, Sojin was the first to step forward. He knew he would not come home. He had made peace with that. The night before launch, he recorded a message for his sister. She was on Earth, waiting like everyone else to see if humanity would survive. "Jimin," he said, "by the time you see this, I will be gone. Please do not be sad. I am not afraid. Every human who died in this war is waiting for me somewhere, and I will be proud to stand with them. I go to my death with a smile, because I know that my death will mean life for everyone I love. Take care of Mother. Tell her I was thinking of her at the end. Tell her I was brave." He paused, wiping his eyes. "The Council thinks we are weak because we love each other. They do not understand. Love does not make us weak. It makes us dangerous. It makes us willing to do anything for the people we care about. That is why they will lose. They fight for power. We fight for each other." He ended the message and sent it to be delivered after the mission was complete. Then he turned back to his controls and flew toward the heart of enemy space. The Battle of the Threshold began at dawn. Earth time. The Council fleet was waiting at the border of their territory. 1,000 ships arranged in perfect formation. They had known the humans would attack eventually. They were ready, or so they thought. Admiral Yuna sent the Ghost Fleet in first. 300 black ships appeared from nowhere, firing everything they had. The Council formation broke apart in surprise. They had not expected this many human ships. They had not expected humans to attack at all. While the Council tried to regroup, Yuna brought in the main fleet. 500 ships hit the enemy line like a hammer. The space between stars filled with fire and death. The casualties were terrible. Human ships were smaller and weaker than Council vessels. For every Council ship that fell, 3 human ships were destroyed. But the humans did not retreat. They could not retreat. Behind them was Earth, and on Earth were their families. Commander Tae Woo-jung led the Ghost Fleet into the center of the enemy formation. His flagship, Remember New Busan, took hit after hit. Half his crew was dead. His engines were failing. His weapons were running out of power. He kept fighting. All ships, he ordered. Target their command vessel. Everything we have. 30 Ghost Fleet ships concentrated their fire on the Council's flagship. The enemy's shields held for almost a minute. Then they failed. The ship exploded in a ball of blue fire, taking the Council's best admiral with it. Tae-woo did not celebrate. He was already turning to the next target. Deep in Council space, Sojin's ship reached the central hub. It was the largest station he had ever seen, a massive structure that controlled communications across 1,000 systems. Hundreds of ships protected it, but they were all looking outward, watching for an attack that they thought would come from the front. They did not see the small black ship slipping through their defenses. Sojin landed on the station's outer hull. His team cut through the metal and entered the maintenance tunnels. They moved quickly, silently, killing any guards they encountered. Dr. Hana-shin had given them the virus on a small device that fit in Sojin's pocket. All they had to do was plug it into the main computer. They reached the core after 2 hours of fighting. 4 of Sojin's team were dead. 3 more were wounded badly. The survivors gathered around the central computer while Council alarms screamed around them. Sojin plugged in the device. The virus uploaded in seconds. Across the galaxy, Council ships began to fail. Their targeting systems went dark. Their communications filled with noise. Their shields flickered and died. The perfect machine that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years fell apart in moments. At the threshold, Admiral Yuna saw the change immediately. Enemy ships that had been firing with perfect accuracy suddenly missed every shot. Ships that had been moving together began crashing into each other. The Council fleet was blind and deaf and dying. All ships, Yuna commanded, advance. The human fleet pushed forward. They broke through the enemy line and kept going, deeper into Council space than any human had ever been. Behind them, they left a field of burning wreckage. On the hub station, Sojin knew his time was up. Council soldiers were breaking through the doors. He had maybe 30 seconds left. He looked at his team, the ones who were still alive. They nodded at him. They understood. Sojin activated the explosives. The blast would destroy the hub completely, making sure the virus could never be stopped. He thought about his sister. He thought about Earth. He thought about all the humans who would live because of what he did today. Then he pressed the button. The hub exploded. The light was visible from 1,000 light-years away, and with it went any chance the Council had of winning this war. Admiral Yuna received the news an hour later. The hub was destroyed. Sojin and his team were gone. The virus was spreading through every Council system. She allowed herself one moment of grief. Then she gave the order, target the weapon facility. All ships, we end this now. The human fleet turned toward the place where Project Silence was being built. There were still Council ships in the way, but they were confused and leaderless. They fought, but they could not stop what was coming. Nothing could stop what was coming. General Sunwoo watched from Earth as the reports came in. The weapon facility was under attack. Council defenses were collapsing. For the first time since the war began, humans were winning. He thought about all the people who had died to make this moment possible. 3 million on New Busan, hundreds of thousands more on the colonies. Lieutenant Ji Yun-kwan, Captain Sojin Ryu, countless soldiers and civilians who had given everything for a chance at survival. Their sacrifice would not be wasted. The weapon facility fell 6 hours later. Project Silence was destroyed before it could be used. The bomb that would have killed Earth was blown apart by human missiles. The war was not over. There was still fighting to do. But the Council's best chance at victory was gone, and everyone knew it. On her flagship, Admiral Una Park looked at the stars that humans had been forbidden to reach. Now they were open. Now they belonged to everyone. "Signal all ships," she said quietly. "We are going home. But we will be back," she smiled. "And next time, we will not be defending." The war did not end with a treaty. It ended with collapse. On the Council's homeworlds, populations that had been told victory was certain woke up to a different truth. Their fleets were destroyed. Their economy was failing. Their leaders had lied to them for years. 3 of the 5 elder species saw revolutions in the months after the Battle of the Threshold. Governments that had ruled for thousands of years fell in weeks. Citizens who had never questioned authority suddenly demanded answers. The old order crumbled like a building with rotten foundations. One species chose isolation. They withdrew their surviving ships to their home system and sealed the borders. No communications went in or out. They preferred to be alone rather than face what they had done. Only Elder Voron's people made peace properly. Voron himself traveled to Earth, the first council leader to do so since the war began. He came without guards, without weapons, without pride. He came to surrender. Chancellor Unji-Han met him in the ruins of the old United Nations building. She was 65 years old, a former professor who had never expected to lead humanity through its darkest hour. Now she stood among the rubble of the old world, ready to build a new one. Voron bowed before her, a gesture his species had not made to anyone in 10,000 years. "I speak for my people," he said. "We ask for peace. We accept full responsibility for the crimes of the Council. We will pay whatever price you demand." Unji studied him for a long moment. "Why did you warn us about Project Silence?" "Because I could not live with myself if I did not. Because the war was wrong from the beginning. Because—" he paused, searching for words. "Because you deserved better, all of you. Your warning saved our species. My people's actions nearly destroyed it. One act of decency does not balance millions of murders." Unji nodded slowly. "No, it does not. But it is a start." The peace negotiations lasted 3 months. Human delegations met with representatives from Voron's species and from the rebel governments that had replaced the old council. The discussions were difficult. The wounds were too fresh for easy forgiveness. Admiral Una Park argued for restraint in the military councils. She had seen more death than anyone, had lost more friends than she could count. But she did not want revenge. "We fought this war because they tried to destroy us," she told the other generals. "If we destroy them in return, we become what they were. We become the thing we fought against." Others disagreed. General Sun Wu's successor wanted to occupy council space forever. Some politicians demanded the complete disarmament of all alien species. A few voices called for genocide, for doing to the council what the council had tried to do to Earth. The debate raged for weeks. In the end, Chancellor Unji-Han made the final decision. The guilty leaders would face trial. Every member of the council who had voted for war, every admiral who had ordered attacks on civilians, every officer who had committed atrocities would answer for their crimes. Justice, not revenge. The former council species would pay reparations. They would help rebuild the colonies they had destroyed. They would fund the memorial to the humans who had died. Payment, not punishment. There would be no occupation, no enslavement, no forced disarmament. The defeated species would keep their freedom and their dignity. Humanity would show the galaxy that power did not require cruelty. Not everyone was happy with this decision. Some said Unji was too soft. Some said she should make the council suffer as humans had suffered. Some said peace was impossible after what had happened. But most humans understood. They were tired of war. They wanted to build something better than what had come before. On the day the peace agreement was signed, Chancellor Unji-Han addressed the galaxy. Her image was broadcast to every world, every station, every ship that could receive it. Humans and aliens alike stopped to listen. "For 60 years, we tried to be your partners. We followed your rules. We accepted your leadership. We believed that if we worked hard and proved ourselves, we would be accepted as equals. You answered with fire. You murdered our children. You burned our homes. You tried to wipe us from existence because you were afraid of what we might become. She paused, letting the words settle. You were right to be afraid. Not because we are monsters, not because we are conquerors. You were right to be afraid because we are survivors, because we do not give up, because we do not forget, because we fight for each other with everything we have. But here is what you did not understand. The same qualities that make us dangerous in war make us valuable in peace. We do not abandon our allies. We do not break our promises. We build, we create, we dream of better things. The old council is dead. Good. It deserved to die. In its place, we will build something new, a true community of species, where no one is elder or junior, where every voice matters, where betrayal has consequences and trust is rewarded. We will never forget what you did to us. We will never let it happen again. But we will not become what you were. We will be better. We have to be better, because that is the only way any of us survive. She ended the broadcast. The galaxy was silent for a long time. 3 weeks later, Admiral Yuna Park stood at the memorial for the fallen. It had been built in the crater where New Busan's capital once stood. The names of 3 million dead were carved into black stone walls that stretched for kilometers. Yuna walked along the walls, reading the names. She knew many of them. She had served with some. Captain Minho Baek found her there as the sun was setting. He had survived the war. One of the few pilots from the 7th Fleet who had. His hair was gray now. His hands shook sometimes. But he was alive. The new council is meeting tomorrow, he said. They want you to represent humanity. Yuna laughed quietly. I am a soldier, not a diplomat. You are a hero. The hero. If you speak, people listen. She looked at the names on the wall. So many names. So many lives that would never be lived. Do you know what the council's biggest mistake was? She asked. Minho shook his head. They thought strength meant cruelty. They thought power meant control. They looked at us and saw a weak species, easy to destroy. They did not see what really makes a species strong. What is that? Yuna smiled sadly. Love. Connection. The willingness to die for something greater than yourself. Lieutenant Ji Young Kwan did not hold that line because she was ordered to. She held it because she loved the people behind her. Captain Sojin Ryu did not fly into the hub because he wanted glory. He flew because he wanted his sister to live. That is what they never understood. That is why they lost. She turned away from the wall and faced the setting sun. They thought we would break. They were wrong. They thought we would forget. They were more wrong. And when they thought we would become like them in victory. She shook her head. That was their final mistake. The new Galactic Council met the next day. Representatives from 12 species sat together for the first time as equals. Human, alien, former enemy, former friend. They had a galaxy to rebuild and centuries of mistakes to correct. It would not be easy. Old wounds would take generations to heal. Trust would have to be earned day by day, year by year. There would be disagreements and setbacks and moments when the whole fragile piece seemed ready to collapse. But there would also be hope. There would be children born who never knew war. There would be friendships across species lines. There would be discoveries and achievements that no one species could accomplish alone. Chancellor Yoonji Han took her seat at the new council table. Around her sat the future of the galaxy. It was messy and uncertain and fragile. It was beautiful. She thought about the journey humanity had taken, from a small blue planet to the rulers of the stars, from victims to survivors to builders of a new order. They had paid a terrible price, but they had emerged stronger than ever. And somewhere, in whatever place souls go after death, 3 million people from New Busan were smiling. The war was over. The council was gone. And humanity had proven, once and for all, that it would never be underestimated again.